It was prom night. She was wearing a beautiful dress. She looked right at you. She started to walk up to you. Your heart skipped at least one beat. She was coming up to you to tell you how she felt, exactly like you felt about her. But she didn't come up to you. She come up to the guy behind you, who she could see from behind you because his outer lats were so big. And she was like, "Excuse me." And you moved out of the way, heartbroken, of course. And she's like, "Why are your lats like, so bad?" And he was like, "I don't know. Want to find out elsewhere?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah." And that was it. That's all you remember from prom. But don't worry, we have the solution. Wide lats and a whole program for free right in this video, folks. Let's get to it. Specialization, wide lats is the goal. First question is, why specialize? Like, why can't we just train everything and also train our lats to be wider? You totally can. However, specialization offers a few advantages. First, you sometimes just want one muscle to grow bigger than the others. Like if your shoulders are already pretty sweet and your mid-back is already pretty cool, but your lats just aren't as wide as you'd want in relation to those, then you can train your lats more with specialization, train everything else a little bit less, or normally, and then your lats may catch up a little bit. Second thing is we can specialize, and part of the specialization is reducing the focus on other muscle groups, and that gives your body more recovery/adaptive energy and nutrients in order to pour into your upper lats so that your upper lats get much better, much faster than if you really try to hammer everything the same. You can train everything normally, but if you want a little bit more speed with which to get your lats a little wider, you may try a specialization program like the one we're going to describe in this video. Now, another big question always comes up, and it's okay, well, the prioritization or specialization seems to grow my muscles faster. Can I just prioritize everything? Well, you totally can, as long as you can recover from prioritizing everything. Everyone but beginners can't. And the real question of, well, how much can it recover from is up to you to ask. So try to prioritize one muscle group at a time, keep everything else as normal training, and see if you can recover whole body. If your whole body can recover, systemic fatigue isn't crazy, hey, next mesocycle, next program, add another thing. Instead of just focusing on big lats, focus on big lats and big triceps. See if that works. And slowly over time, you'll find out that you can specialize maybe 4 or 5 muscles at a time, and then 5 or 6 is just too much for your body. Maybe 5 or 6 is totally fine. It has to be something you find out on your own. I only sort of best recommendation to you is not to try to specialize everything all at once and find out you can't and then start to chop things off. I would say work everything normally and specialize one thing and then 2 things and then 3 things and then see where you hit that top limit, because then you make a lot of gains going on the way there as opposed to trying to go too much to begin with, making very poor gains, doing less, still making poor gains. Good idea is to work your way up, not work your way down. All right, so we're into specialization. Let's talk about some basics of what makes a program, a specialized program, as opposed to just a regular program. Well, first is specificity. You're going to choose your exercises and the modalities like myo-reps versus straight sets and your rep ranges to preferentially stimulate the target muscle. So for example, when you choose exercises for your back, but you want wide lats, you're going to do a lot more vertical pulling than you are horizontal rowing, because horizontal rowing just not as good, especially for the upper outer lats, as is vertical pulling. So that's just a really good example there. Next is the idea of prioritization. You're going to train the exercises that really target your upper lats and outer lats, mostly first, often as the first exercise or group of exercises in a bunch of the days through the week. You don't want to have this thing where you're like, yeah, I'm really focused on getting my lats super big. And someone's like, oh yeah, when do you train them? You're like, after bench and incline and biceps and triceps and shoulders, I'll do some lat work at the end. Like, I thought it was important to you. You want to train important things fresh. So maybe not every time you train your back, but most of the times you train your back through the week, if your lats are really your goal to prioritize, train them first or second in the workout. Don't train them last or in the middle or something like that. Another ingredient is frequency. Generally speaking, at least in the short term, several weeks to several months at a time, higher frequency works better than lower frequency, especially to bring up a lagging muscle group. So maybe you can train your lats once a week, and that may not bring you the best gains. 2 times a week would be much better, but maybe even 3 to 4 times a week for really focusing on bringing up your upper outer lats. Gee whiz, that'll make you wider faster. Is it sustainable? Maybe not, but you don't need to sustain. You just need bigger lats now. So you can finally go get a time machine, go back to prom, elbow that guy, like this, like one of these, like, yeah, with the elbow and the back fist, He falls down, and then you lat spread, and that girl comes right up to you, and she's like, oh my God. You're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I already know what you're going to say. Let's go back to your room. And she's like, totally. And that's it. You're in the money. Lastly, you may consider engaging in some reduction of non-specialized training, especially for synergist muscle groups that if they are too tired, as the French say, they may actually limit your lats from becoming as big and strong as possible. So for example, if you're doing a ton of bicep work in your program, and a lot of that transfers to all the forearm flexors, it could be that when you're doing pull downs and pull-ups, your biceps and forearm flexors are so tired from the massive volume you're imposing on them that you end up failing on pull-ups because your forearm flexors fail, not because your lats fail. That's not ideal for the lats. So one thing you want to do is potentially, if you really want to just throw all the chips at it, really prioritize your upper back, upper outer lats. What you want to do is maybe reduce your bicep volume to some extent, reduce your rear delt volume, reduce the amount of rowing you're doing. All the muscles that work with the lats to pull, you want them to be maybe a little bit on the back burner. It's not a mandatory thing, but if you just had enough, you're tired of not going to prom, not getting laid, then you have to bring down the rowing volume, bring down the curling volume, and then every workout that you do for your upper outer lats, it's going to be hammering them like crazy, and they're going to be the limiting factor if that's going to give you your best thing. It's not something you have to do, but again, if you really want to up the ante, you're really super serious about making these gains, it's definitely a tool in the toolbox. All right, now it's time to construct your specialized plan for upper outer lat development, sort of based on the stuff we talked about earlier. So first, frequency, I would give some thought to training the back 3 or 4 times per week, or 3 or 4 back-centered parts of your workout. And 2 or 3 of those should be highly focused on the upper outer lats, and then maybe another workout or 2 can be focused on just general back development, a little bit more back burner. If we focus every single workout in the week on a specific part of a muscle, we can end up going and fatiguing that local part so much that it doesn't have time to recover between the weeks, and then it just kind of gets too tired over time and you don't make great gains. But if you want to make a big push at the early part of the week, later part of the week, a bit of a relaxation, and then another push, you just keep getting better and better and better. So it works really well. Exercises, nothing too fancy here. The first thing I'll say is I have some recommendations, right? Core of heavy vertical pulling. You want big upper outer lats? How many pull-ups can you do? If it's more than 10, how many weighted pull-ups can you do? How heavy is the weight? Of course, always a strict technique. Show me a guy who can do weighted pull-ups for pretty high reps with a lot of weight. I'll show you a guy with probably really big lats. It's not rocket science. Another thing is straight arm pulling, okay? So lat prayers are an excellent idea to target the upper and outer lats. You can, of course, do any kind of machine variant of that. Pullover is also awesome. You can keep in rowing, and you probably should, but I would put rowing later in the session, generally speaking, especially for the upper outer lats. Vertical pulling and lat prayers just target the upper and outer lats better than rows do. Rows can absolutely target the lats totally well, but because they don't allow that top stretch, anytime you stop with a row, it's here, it's not up here, there's a limit to how much rows can help. Rows are really good for the rest of your back, but for upper outer lats, gee whiz, vertical pulling and lat prayers are unlikely to be beat. Now, you may say to yourself, hold on, Dr. Mike, I have these other exercises that I find really crush my upper outer lats, like, the whole one arm pull down thing. Hey, listen, if that is a great stimulus for you and it's very low on fatigue, by all means include it. These are just example exercises, but if you have exercises that you really feel hit the region, absolutely pepper them into your program. They're going to work great for you. I can't tell you what's 100% going to work great for you. That's up to you to find out. Set numbers for the back in this program start every session with 2 to 6 sets at the beginning, right? 6 sets is something like you've trained lats for a while. They have a high volume tolerance. You do 6 sets of total back work in a session. You're going to be totally fine. It's the beginning of your stimulus, close to your minimum effective volume. If you know that, great, start at 6. If you really haven't trained your back and lats much, start closer to 2 so you can ramp up from there. No reason to do it all up front. It actually causes more damage than it does growth. Not something we want. As far as loading and rep ranges, this is something we have to be creative with. You have to do the loading, which translates to the rep ranges, sets of 5 to 10, 10 to 20, or 20 to 30, that correspond with your best stimulus to fatigue ratio. Now, here's the thing. We're all built just a bit differently. Sometimes people really get an unreal stimulus of sets of 8 in the weighted pull-up for the lats. Some people don't feel hardly anything except joint pain in that rep range. They get much better work out of sets of 15. Still other people say sets of 25 reps for like lat prayers or something, burn them and crush their lats like no one else's business. So what I would say is focus on the rep ranges, that are best for you, for your own pump, for your own tension, for your own burn, the best stimulus and the less fatigue for you. There are no wrong answers between sets of 5 and sets of 30 reps, but there are slightly better answers depending on how your own feedback works. Generally speaking, if you're going to do a mix of rep ranges, I would start most sessions with the heavy end, sets of 5 to 10, when you're fresh, and that will correspond with some exercise selection. So someone could say, hey, if I want upper outer lats, don't I want to start with lat prayers first? Well, maybe, but if you do those for sets of 10 to 20, maybe it's better to start with vertical pulling, let's say pull-ups with a weight, sets of 5 to 10. You're going to be super fresh with your lats when you hit that, and that's going to be able to hit them for you usually better than starting with an isolation movement first. But if the stimulus to fatigue ratio in your case means isolation first starting is a good idea, hey, that's absolutely a good idea to do. All right. We got a basic plan, at least intellectually laid out. How do we progress through it? Well, first of all, set numbers. If you are no longer sore at all by the time that you start your next back workout, then the next week you can probably do a little bit more work. If you're still sore, or not even sore, but very tired and fatigued and unable to get very good performances, you need to reduce the set numbers you're doing. So for example, if you do 8 sets of lat work on Monday, and then Wednesday you have to come in and do, let's say 7 sets, if by Wednesday you are completely recovered and you feel super strong, you're hitting mega PRs, 8 sets on Monday, that's at least the correct answer. I would say next week, try 9. But if you come in on Wednesday and the 8 sets from Monday messed you up, you're still sore, you're still weaker than you were before, then 8 sets is probably overkill. I would go down to like 6 sets next Monday, still increase load, still increase reps, but 6 sets total may be a better stimulus with less of a recovery demand. That is going to result, as you auto-regulate your program, on average the volume is going to calibrate a little bit, but it's probably going to go up as your body gets used to the work over time. Reps in reserve, relative effort, basically how hard you go. Start like around 3 reps in reserve, and then add a little bit of weight, maybe 2.5, 5 pounds every week, maybe a rep or 2 every week to every lift. And at some point, you're going to get really close to failure. And as soon as you have a week of basically 0 RIR or failure training, you're probably going to accumulate so much fatigue, it's going to be time to deload. Loading in reps, easy, same idea as the RIR. You add 2.5 to 5 pounds every week and or 1 to 2 reps. Add what is reasonable. Add what you'll be able to hit for a rep PR next week. But also, if you have 3 more weeks, don't add so much weight that you're just going to peter out. Add a little bit of weight at a time. If you add 2.5 pounds all the time and you do it for 8 weeks straight, you're going to revolutionize your physique. If you add 10 pounds in one session and you're super proud of yourself, the next session you may be so fatigued that there's no more ability to add. You have to deload, wash away the fatigue, repeat. It's super, super annoying. All right, so here's a sample plan. Caveat, it's a sample. So this isn't like the ultimate lat training program. No such thing. There's too much individual variation for us to ever say that. But here's a plan you can try. It's, weighted normal grip pull-ups overhand. So this is going to be in the 5 to 10 rep range, nice and heavy. After that, assisted pull-ups. After that, barbell rows. So your upper lats are going to be super, super toasted. Wednesday, straight arm pull downs. We start out with those. Then wide grip pull downs after. Notice Wednesday is on average lighter than Monday because we generally like to train heavy when we're more fresh. Then cable rows to the chest afterwards to really finish off the back. Notice we're not backing off from all the other back training, just a little bit less. And then Friday, just bent over rows, 2 arm bent over rows with dumbbells for only 2 sets of 10 to 20 reps. Why so little? Because we want to really make enough of a stimulus that Friday to conserve the muscle we've built. Monday and Wednesday, which almost certainly, conservation is very easy. And then we want to make sure that it's so little work that over the weekend you recover big time so that next Monday and Wednesday you can smash it again. So it's kind of like Monday, Wednesday smash, Friday easier. Monday, Wednesday smash, Friday easier. And here I thought Fridays were for smashing. A little Netflix and chill joke for you guys. All right, so this would be like what week 1 would look like. If we scroll over, this is a sample of what the final pre-deload week, let's say week 4 or 5 of the program would be like. Notice, instead of 3 reps in reserve, everything is 0 reps in reserve. There are some sample increases in sets, and notice the rep ranges are the same, but the sets have gone up. And that's just for you guys to sort of figure out, okay, am I completely off the mark with my own set increases, or this is something super realistic? Notice the sets do increase significantly, but it's not like we add 10 sets per exercise, maybe more like 3 to 5 sets per exercise, maybe even 3 to 5 sets total of the program. One cool thing to notice there is Friday. Okay, on the first Friday, we did 2 sets of rows. That was easy. And on the last Friday, we only do 3 sets of rows. Why? Again, because it's that recovery thing. Friday, maybe on the very last Friday, maybe here, we would do rows and a bunch of other stuff because we don't care because deals are coming up. But on most Fridays, up until this one, we do very small amount of rowing work because we want that recovery to come afterwards. All right. That's basically specialization for, or a sample program for you guys for upper outer lats to get that width so the girls notice you. How long do you specialize for? Ideally 3 mesocycles in a row. Accumulate, deload, accumulate, deload, accumulate, deload, then you're done. You can alter the rep ranges every single time. A lot of times you accumulate a lot of fatigue as you go, so maybe doing more high rep stuff as each month of training passes is a good idea. Maybe if you can survive the low rep stuff, no big deal. You can introduce some new exercises, especially if the exercises you have tend to get stale on you. So if your weighted pull-ups are doing great, they feel amazing, very minimum joint discomfort, tons of great pumps and tension, you don't have to trade them out. You can keep them the entire 3 months. But if you've got like some kind of cable row variant that after a month or after the first program is like, it kind of feels weird, my lower back gets really tired, I'm not sure I'm into this, try a machine or something else. Variation should be imposed from a needs perspective, not necessarily we're just like, hey, here's variation for no sake at all. Similar structure, similar frequency. You can try a little bit higher frequency in the last meso. So maybe in the first mesocycle, you do 3 back sessions a week. Second one, you also do 3. In the third one, because we're going to be having a very long time to rest afterwards, it doesn't have to be sustainable. You can try a mesocycle of 4 back days per week. Holy crap, 4 back days per week. Don't worry, you won't be the first, you won't be the last to do it. People have had great success with it. Just reduce your per session volumes a little bit if you're used to starting with 4 sets every back workout. Maybe start with 3, but then over time it's going to work up over the weeks to something with really high volume. It's going to really put an exclamation mark on your best effort to grow your upper and outer lats. After you finish that whole mesocycle of 4 times a week back training focused on the upper outer lats, gee whiz, you're not going to have a whole lot more growth in the short term, at least, to get out of that equation. Afterwards, our body's going to need a break. Ideally, you do 2 weeks of active rest after this 3 mesocycles, maybe 4 weeks of maintenance training, very low volume, relatively heavy load, just to keep the muscle on the body, really reinvigorate your musculature and the entire system to be ready to grow again. And then you can do a normal block of training, 3 mesocycles normal. You can do 3 mesos focused on another muscle altogether, or you can do another 3 mesos of lat width focused, no big deal. You can do it back to back as long as you take at least an active rest phase between them. All right, that's a lot of stuff. And hopefully it's got you curious. What about this? You don't know what the exercises look like. No big deal. We have some links right here for you. First, we have an exercise video library, totally for free. A bunch of the exercises we recommend at RP with none other than myself narrating them and Jared Feather doing them. So all of a sudden you have this really, really cool resource. We have a muscle group training guide. It's in the link here, but it's Hypertrophy Guide, Central Hub, and we have all of the muscle groups with exercises and periodization, recommendations, sample programs. It's all in there, all for free. So if you really get curious about other muscles or even this one, good idea to try. We have the Hypertrophy Made Simple lifting videos. If you're like, what the hell is RIR? Go and click on that playlist. It'll be awesome. It'll set you up with a really good understanding of muscle growth. So if you circle back around to this video, a whole lot more stuff will make sense. The hypertrophy book, which was authored by myself and a few other co-authors, is not free. However, it is very, very in-depth. So if you're really a nerd, you really want to learn about this stuff, especially to program for your clients who care about hypertrophy and are paying you money, I would get the hypertrophy book. That's a good idea. And here's a really cool thing. You can build this program on your own using Microsoft Excel or whatever. But if you pay us basically $100, like $99, you can build your own specialization program for the upper outer lats or whatever else you like with our custom training template builder. The link is right there. You build your own program. You tell it how much of which muscle groups you want to train, how many times a week you want to train, what your gender is. It sends you a program. And then here's the thing. That program is quote unquote only for 6 weeks. However, you can use it as at least 2 more times. And you can change the exercises every time. So you can design a real back-specific split on this, back-specific specialization split. And then once you get your program, you pick all the exercises to be the ones for upper outer lats, for lat width that you want. You run a mesocycle, keep all the exercises for the next one that are great, replace the ones that were not good. It's right there. You just drag and drop, no big deal. And then do it again and again and again. So you can have this entire thing that I just described of 3 mesocycles of upper back focused training to get your lats super wide. If you want that Yes, you can build it yourself. We encourage you to do so 100%. I've got enough Lamborghinis. But if you want to put a little coin into Lambo Fund and buy yourself a custom training template, then you can have this process really ultra simplified for you. And it's like 18 or more weeks of training for just $100. Not the worst deal in the world. Give it some thought, folks. I'll see you next time, some other time, for another muscle group program for free. Hey, see you then. Yeah, being wide is cool from the back. What about being wide from the front? Armored upper pecs, you want them? There's the link right there.